That's good.
That's way good.
I like High West. You know what's not made here anymore?
It's not? They moved their distillery?
Yep. It got bought, and so it's made like in Kentucky now. So it's a real bourbon at
Okay,
least.
so now it's real bourbon.
Yeah.
Well, they got that going for them.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We thought we'd start out with a little bit of bourbon ASMR right there, but welcome back. This is episode 4 of Your Content Factory. Thanks for joining us today. I have with me Cody Adent. Let me give you a good intro here. Cody is a father, an author, an entrepreneur, a hospitality guru, Instagram celebrity, and also a prisoner of Azkaban. That's a story. Wielder of the sword Orcbane, and High Prince of, you live in Desert Color, right?
Yeah.
High Prince of Desert Color.
Hey, look at that. That's the best intro I've ever gotten.
Yeah. I took some liberties
Yeah.
with it.
The further down the list you got, the less I knew what you're talking about.
Yeah. I heard those in a book that I read front
That's
to
great.
back just by chance.
Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome, dude. Cody, thank you for being here so much, man. This is a great treat for me because Cody's one of our clients, and you've been with us. You're the newest client
Yeah.
at Blueform Media, but you've probably changed our outlook on a number of things since you've been here. Very influential. So I kind of want to dive into it.
Let's do it.
And get your opinion on a lot of things. And Cody has a podcast called Winning the Moment. His book is right over his shoulder there. Cody, if you could point to those. Yeah. It's called Winning the Moment. His podcast is called Winning the Moment. So we'll plug that right now. If you want to hear Corey, I had a friend named
Everyone calls me Corey my whole
Corey.
life.
Do they call you Corey,
Yeah.
really?
Yep, always.
You give a Corey vibe.
Yeah, I must. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I get that all the time.
I'm so sorry, but
No
it's,
worries. I take zero offense.
there's evidence that you look like a Corey.
Yeah,
right?
clearly.
But that's awesome. So if you want to see Cody's full story, go check out his podcast. He goes into depth about that. Have you had anyone interview you yet on your podcast?
No, not on my podcast. I've been on a bunch of podcasts, but I've not had anyone interview me on the Winning the Moment podcast.
So maybe we should do a little bit. I'll get your background a little more thorough then, so you have that. But we'll get into a lot of things today. But first, we got the bourbon going.
It's delicious.
It's time for your gift. We got you a gift.
Okay.
Let me ask you this, Bill, to preface this. Have you thought about, is your book already available on audio?
No, I need to do that. It's
do
funny. I was just having that conversation with someone this week, asking me about it. They just found out I had a book, which says I'm not doing a good enough job talking about it. Is my accountants. So you think they would know. And they asked about it. And it's like, I know that's a thing that I've got to do. That's like the only thing my publisher didn't do is provide the audio version of it.
Well, we just got into audio narration.
Yeah, Jane's doing
it with you. And I'm taking a stab at doing the narration myself, so we have a little treat for you. Mal, did you find that folder?
I did, yeah.
Could you, whatever one you want, just go ahead and play that for the show.
Okay. All right, give me a second.
Anticipation.
Winning the Moment by Cody Adent. Introduction.
This is the wrong one.
A gangly 10-year-old shuffles away from the other kids.
Is that you reading
Shoulders
it?
Yeah.
slumped below a sour
This is the wrong one. If you could stop
They've
that.
lost the game.
You can stop that.
Yeah, stop that. I probably didn't title it very well.
That's pretty good.
Your instruction was horrible.
Yeah, I sent her a text to find the file path, so I was like,
Winning the Moment.
no,
By Cody
pause.
That's
Is
pretty good. You can
incorrect.
change your voice so much.
Thank you. It's in process. Go back to those files.
You can do like that stuff on Fiverr now. You can do people's like intros.
Yeah, and there's a place called voices.com. There should be like a finished book. Did you see like Cody's book? Click on that. Nope. 1940s Final.
Those are the two I just played.
They're supposed to have music.
Well, looks like you fucked up.
Don't edit any of this
Damn.
out. Leave
No,
it all there.
This is all in. This is it. Well, this is a tribute. This is our tribute to Dr. Stephen Brule here. But yeah, go ahead and play them. We'll play them without music. We'll send you the music ones. Maybe we'll just dub them over.
By Cody Adent. A gangly 10-year-old shuffles away from the other kids. Shoulders slumped below a sour frown. They lost the game. And it's only Pee Wee League, but
it's better with the
Could you do the whole book that way? That'd be
No,
I never
exhausting.
should have joined the
exhausting.
team.
Yeah.
I don't even like playing. It could be any kid.
I put a bunch of
twangy playing any sport.
guitar to it.
Maybe it was you.
I gotta find that. Are you sure it's not? Can you go back to the Synology real quick?
That's funny.
We gotta find this. Go to Synology Vault. Go to Cody Adent's file. And Cody's audio gift. I was in the wrong spot. It's right there at the top folder. Okay, yeah. Go ahead. Cody, Cowboy Cody is what this one's called.
There it is.
Winning the Moment by Cody Adent.
Is this the ambiance you're looking
Yeah,
for?
Gangly
this is exactly what I was going
slipping
for.
away from the other kids. Shoulders slumped below a
It's actually pretty cool.
It feels like I'm in a
They
Dodge
lost the game.
commercial.
Yeah, with the music, it
And
changes
it's
it
only
so
Teams
much.
right?
League,
Yeah.
but it might as well be the World Championship.
With the
I
music,
never
it
should've
sounds like a
joined the
movie
team.
intro. It's actually pretty cool.
I don't
Yeah,
even
and
like
there's some
playing.
audiobooks that will do that.
Could be any kid in
as they
some
read like
town
the
playing
narration.
any
It's
sport.
like a fantasy book.
Yeah.
Maybe it was you.
Thank you, Mal. You can pause that
It's
one.
actually really cool. I don't do audiobooks. I feel like it's cheating, which is stupid. It's just like a feeling I have of like, if I didn't read it, it's like I don't get the credit
like
for
if
it,
you didn't turn the page,
which is
yourself.
dumb. Like that's just a
Yeah.
dumb internal belief that I got to shake that because all I'm doing is limiting my ability for information. But nonetheless, that's how I feel.
That's good. If you're a purist on your page turning, that's,
Like if I got a book on my shelf,
Yeah.
every book on my shelf, because I don't put it on the shelf unless I've read it. It's in a drawer if it's like to be read. So if you see a book on my bookshelf, then that means I've read it front to cover.
Yeah.
There's one exception, and that's The Art of War.
Yeah, that one you kind of bounce in and out of.
I just couldn't do it. I didn't know what it was, and I brought it on vacation with me. Terrible choice.
Yeah, we were talking about
Yeah,
that
it's
when I was
not
reading it.
not a vacation.
Yeah,
book.
I go in and out, right?
Yeah.
Parable style. But yeah. Mal, could you play the other one just real quick so you can hear the full ambiance of that 1940s announcer? Yeah, Cody Adent. Yep. And then we'll show you the normal one.
Okay.
Winning the Moment by Cody Adent. Introduction.
The guy in the oboe is going,
Yeah,
Gangly
that's
10-year-old
good.
shuffles away from the other kids.
It kind of really helps you
Shoulders slumped
put you
below a
in
sour frown.
like to mentally
They've
see.
lost
Yeah.
the game.
Dude,
That's
you're,
good.
You're
And it's only
dancing with the
Pee-wee
girl in the
League,
flapper.
but it might as well
Yeah.
be the World Championship, see?
I like it.
Championship, say.
I never should have joined the team. I don't even
Anyway,
like
we were just
playing.
having fun. With
Yeah, I
our-
like that. That's
our
cool.
audio
It's
stuff.
interesting to
Town
see
playing any
You can stop
how
that.
different it feels when you put the music to it.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you put a little voice to it. So we thought that would just be a fun little novelty.
Yeah, that's cool. I love
But
that.
if we could, let's play the narration, just the full one. So I even if you don't go with me, we can. If you want to read it here, we just got into the audiobook.
I know. I need to do it.
And so if you want to, this is kind of how it would feel. So go ahead and play that normal final. Yep.
Winning the Moment by Cody Adent. Introduction. A gangly 10-year-old shuffles away from the other kids,
Yeah, I got to
shoulders
do it.
slumped below a
Yes.
sour frown. They lost the game, and it's only Pee-wee League, but it might as well have been the World Championship.
Yeah, I like the picture that you
I never
paint
should
in
have joined the
beginning of your
team.
book. By the way.
Yeah.
I don't even like
Thank you,
playing.
Mal. You can stop that.
I know. I got to
Appreciate
do it. It's just like it's such an easy. And the other thing about audiobooks is that's like one of the few places I can really make money on the book because I get 100% of the proceeds of audiobooks
Yeah, that's true. I think depending on if it's on Amazon, right?
anywhere.
Anywhere.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe like Audible takes a percentage of it for their sales, but my publisher doesn't, is what I mean.
Oh, okay.
So like anywhere
Goes
else you
all
buy
into
the
your
book,
pocket.
yeah, the publisher gets most of it. You know, rightfully so. They did all the work.
That's true. So, on that note, tell us about your book. So, Winning the Moment. How long has it been out?
So it came out on January 3rd. When is this podcast going to air? How delayed are you?
Next week.
Next week? Okay,
week from
great.
today.
So I've got on August 11th, which that's like actually this is perfect because that'd be August 9th that this will come out. On August 11th, we're going to make the ebook 99 cents
Whoa.
in an effort to become a bestseller. So I've got a 24-hour window to try and capitalize on that. And so if you're listening to this and you want to help someone become a best-selling author, then please go on Amazon and pick it up for $1. Even if you already bought the book, Amazon views those as two different SKUs. So even if you bought the physical book, buying the ebook doesn't count against it or isn't like not counted. It counts all the same. So if you could support me and go purchase that ebook on August 11th, that'd be awesome. We'll see what happens. I got 24 hours to try and do it. So
I got $1.
yeah, I mean, everyone's got $1,
I got $1.
you know, throw $1 my way.
Yeah, I mean, I got some dollars.
What's funny is I won't actually get any of that $1, but it will potentially make me a best-selling author. And that's a moniker I get to carry with me for the rest of my life.
Right.
For my efforts and my aspirations to become a speaker, being able to say you're a best-selling author.
Yeah.
And even for the podcast, right? To be able to say
It's a title. It's like what I read off today.
Yeah.
Prisoner of Azkaban, all that stuff.
Right.
That was just joking, but like that
it's
list
a big
of titles,
deal,
when you're on stage presenting or speaking or leading or resume or LinkedIn, it's like those titles matter. It's almost like an exact copy of like the old medieval nobility.
Yeah.
Where the crier reads them off at the party. But that
makes
basically
me
what
think
you're doing.
of A Knight's Tale.
Exactly.
Yeah, the guy was so good at doing that. So it's a big deal for me to try and do that. And then they'll put the stamp on my book, and like all the books going forward will then say best-selling author. And so it's a pretty cool thing. We'll see if I can do it.
You'll do it.
I hope so.
Yeah. And then that's what we can do. We can help you out with that. We'll turn this into a clip too. And
Sure.
Promote Cody.
Yeah, I'm going to reach out, and I was going to actually ask you guys if all of your podcast clients that day can do a story or something that says like, go purchase the book. I'm going to blitz out everyone that I have a relationship with, ask everyone to do it. I mean, I don't even need, like where I'm at right now, I won't even need that many sales, but every single one really does count. Like one book could be the difference between me being it and not being it.
Have you heard of Gleam?
No.
A little website. So Derek Legg has been doing this. It's a giveaway, like promotional tool. Gleam.
Glem. Gleam.
Gleam.io.
Okay.
And he showed us that. And he was doing it for the last couple of weeks. He was gaining like 100 subscribers a day on YouTube.
Oh shit, that's huge.
Because all he was doing was giving away like a Maverick gas card for like $50, or like he did a $100 one. And
wow.
And people go to the Gleam website, they're like interested in the promotion, and they go through this checklist of like, go subscribe to this YouTube channel. And then once they complete that checklist, then it gives them
enters them into the drawing.
Yeah.
Man, I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah. So if it's like, hey, go.
Thanks, Derek.
Yeah. If you want to buy this 99 cent book, help me out with the this task. And like, if people buy that, then they get 1,000 entries or whatever you want to.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So he's seen some huge growth from that too.
Man, that's awesome. I'm so excited about that.
Is actually in line with engagement. We'll talk about today.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so a little bit of your background, right? I actually don't know your background as well, but I know you're in hospitality.
Yep.
I know you have a beautiful family.
Thank you.
But tell us about you. Like, who was young Cody Adent?
Man, I've been an entrepreneur since the jump. Like, as young as I can remember, I was on that grind. And my first business ever was, I think I was in second grade. It's called the All Night Midnight Bar. Odd name for a second grader, but I had an unfinished basement, and I built like a table, and then I like sold all my old toys, and I'd make my friends sandwiches, sell them sodas, like whatever.
Whoa.
And I remember my first day made like $21.38. And I remember like counting it in my bathroom. And I remember thinking my dad's best friend owned a bar in Cheyenne. And I remember thinking, like, I bet I made more money than he did his first day, because I just so disillusioned as to the value of money.
Right.
And then I created a movie theater in my basement. This is back in VHS. Like, my aunt would record all the movies on like HBO and Showtime and all that. And so we just had like VHSs for days with like 6 movies on each one, And so then I built like tiered seating in my basement. And so I'd go around and like tell the neighborhood kids like, Ace Ventura Pet Detective at 2:00 today. It's only $4, really just charging my friends to hang out with me. And then I did what every kid does, mowing lawns, picking weeds. I used to actually I'd take all of like the food in our pantry in my wagon, and I would sell it door to door, like around the neighborhood. I grew up in a really great neighborhood.
Oh, like, do you need brown sugar?
Yeah. So I was just always doing it, and then
you just did this for fun.
Yeah, and for money, like I always had an
course.
insatiation with money, and probably, a relatively unhealthy relationship with it until I really like learned more about it. And then like I got into Jordans when I was in high school. So I would buy like old Jordans online. I would clean them, sell them, resell them, or I'd buy ones that were hard to get and resell them for a profit. Or I would take like my lunch money. I got $20 a week. And so that was $5 or $4 a day, right? That I'd have for lunch. For those of you listening, this is before Bidenomics. So $4 actually got you a pretty decent lunch back then.
Yeah, I remember.
And at our school, you could get a bagel and cream cheese for $1. And so I was like, sweet, that's good enough for me. So then I'm only spending $5, which gives me $15 of profit.
Yeah.
And then I would leverage that $15 into something that I would resell.
Yeah, buy some Snickers and sell them at a higher margin.
Right. So I just always had that like entrepreneurial spirit. Then when it came time to, become an adult, I had a hard time learning as a kid, and I just knew traditional education wasn't for me. And so I was like, well, my parents didn't have money to like send me to college. So I could either like pay to get a loan to go to school, or I could pay to start a business. And so that's what I did, because I thought the school's not going to pay me back.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah. So I started my first business, and God, I learned so much. I didn't know shit when I started it. And so trial by fire. And I can remember my dad telling me, and he was an entrepreneur at this stage in his life, telling me like, you're learning more right now than you would have in 4 years of school.
Yeah.
And he would know, because he went to school for 9 years. So,
well, was he a doctor then?
No, that's the best part. You have to go listen to his episode on Winning the Moment. He just liked to gamble and fuck around too much. And so,
So he just
took 9
like
years to
Van
graduate.
Wilder or whatever,
Yeah,
right? Just always at
exactly.
school. Okay, I guess Tommy Boy is a better example.
Yeah, Van Wilder's perfect.
Yeah.
So, so I did that, and then I was really fortunate. I'm very in tune to the universe. I saw some signs on the wall, sold it to an investor in 2008. I didn't see the economic collapse that was coming, but I did see some industry specific signs that I knew it was time to exit for me as an individual with Alltel, because they had been bought by Goldman and Sachs.
Right.
And so I knew like that whole dynamic was going to shift.
So you pulled the ripcord.
I sold it to an investor, which was awesome, right? Got me out of the business, returned all of my investment and time and work, and then profited a little bit. And then I went into the corporate world, really cut my teeth, learned so much doing that, learned so much structure. I had a manager, Kevin Rappel, who really, like, the things and the principles that he taught me still stick with me today. I wouldn't be the leader that I am without his tutelage. Yeah. And then we got recruited to fix a wireless, I say, because I'm talking about my family. I got recruited to fix a wireless company here in Utah, came back, and then my daughter was born. And as soon as like my wife got pregnant, I just had that sense of, this isn't enough. Like, I can't work for other people and create the life that I want for my family.
Yes.
And so we moved to Houston when my daughter was 6 months old to start a marketing company with one of my best friends, Zach. I built that up. My last year, we paid out over $1 million in commission to our sales reps. We were all over the country. And then when my wife got pregnant with our son, Cash, I was like, all right, let's get home. Came home. I got licensed to be a financial advisor, because I didn't know what I was going to do, but I love money and I love helping people. So I started that. But then Breck asked me to be the CFO of the Cliff Rose. And that's what started me down this journey of hospitality and brought me to where I am today. So that kind of brings us full circle.
Dude, that's excellent. And I appreciate good story. Like I'm a closet nerd. I read fantasy and science fiction. Huge fan of like, good story. And like the greats, like the Odyssey, and like all of these records we have are just stories of our history. And the way you say that, you can tell you've rehearsed it, you've practiced it. Yeah, you've put it into a book.
Yeah, right.
So you've had to have some practice with it, and that is just much appreciated.
Well, I think
I love that.
It's so important in a podcast too to be concise. And that was maybe even a little bit long-winded, but what makes a podcast intriguing is dialogue.
Yes.
And so if you pass someone the ball and they take it for too long, the audience can lose interest. And as a host, it's difficult also to sit and wait so long for an opportunity, right? Because what you really want to have is discourse back and forth, because that's what creates interest.
It does.
And so when you're listening, you want to hear both people talking.
Otherwise, it's a lecture.
Yeah, and anyone's voice gets annoying after so much time.
It does, yeah. And especially how articulate the person is. If they're umming and uhing all the time, right?
They're using filler words like and and all that good stuff.
Which we are all susceptible to.
Yeah.
There are some lecturers that I think are phenomenal. Like you listen to Jordan Peterson talk or something like that.
And he talks too long too. I love him and he's great. But he goes on Joe Rogan. It's like, God damn, Jordan, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, let me hear the question Joe has and answer it, and then let him ask another one,
If I'm fresh on like a Sunday morning, I can listen to that longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, like short, like it has to be concise. Totally agree with you on that.
Have you listened to the Candace Owens interview with Andrew Tate?
I've seen snippets of it. I haven't listened to it fully.
It was really good. She's brilliant at like allowing back and forth, because Andrew will talk forever.
Yeah,
if you let him,
she can interject.
Yeah,
she's got that like strong, like that intellectual strength, and she can just like assert herself into a conversation, but it's like somehow still polite.
Yeah, Breck told me like, we got a friend in our group who basically just thinks opposite of me in every capacity. He's like, you got to have him on the podcast. And I was like, I don't disagree with you, because that's what creates intrigue. And he's like, well, Candace Owens does it. I said, well, Candace Owens is a little bit more brilliant than I am, and she has all the answers. And so it's like, yes, I would love to bring someone on with a different perspective, but I don't want to do that unless I have an equal arsenal of information. So we can go back and forth, because I do think that discourse is important and different perspectives are important, but I wouldn't be doing myself a service unless I was prepared to be able to share the opposite viewpoints with enough data to really validate what I'm saying.
Exactly. And that the data kind of protects the conversation from degrading.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you don't want to get to like a nasty place of
then you're getting into emotional
arguing. Yeah.
Like wallowing with the pigs, as they say, right? That's really, really crucial. And so I actually wanted you on because in your content factory, we're talking about all the elements you need to make the most consistent content possible, right? Taking your podcast to the next level, really grabbing your podcast and wringing out every drop of quality from it. Like a wet towel or rag. But with you, I think you're probably one of our best, most talented podcasting hosts that we have in our company, right? And that's a subtle challenge to everybody that's already a client. But like, you can learn a lot from Cody.
Healthy competition.
Healthy competition. We can all learn from each other. But podcast hosting, you can tell you're very intentional about it. You can tell that you come prepared and planned. You always have a notebook.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, Cody just recorded his episode.
Yeah.
We did a quick,
switch over
change, background change, and then you still got your notes. You're still tapping your pen. Like, so if anybody, like at any moment, Mal could like switch back and forth a couple times, probably right now, just like, and we're like, who's the host?
Yeah, there's one episode with Spencer where I got my pen like too high, and he's like, "Oh, there's your pen wagging in my face."
yeah. He's like, "You're." This is such a power move too. Like, this is body language, right?
Yeah.
Like doing this. This indicates to me that I'm the host, but now you're You're countering with host.
It's like it's a pen chess.
Yeah, it's like host paper scissors. I'm like, oh crap. But so that's why I brought you on. I just think you do a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Controlling that dialogue so it stays fresh. Also, you probably laugh more than any podcast.
I think you got to. Laughter is happiness.
Yeah,
like,
that is my language, dude.
Yeah.
I'm always goofing off. I was a class clown kind of guy.
Yeah, for sure.
In the military, it continued. It got worse.
Yeah.
Like
I love to make people laugh.
Yeah, people wouldn't take me seriously, but I resonate with this because I like having a good time wherever I go.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, no matter how serious
life's
you
too
get.
short.
Exactly. So on that we agree, but I've really enjoyed producing your podcast because I've laughed so much, and you guys with your guests, they get laughing. It's just so organic. So with that, so we're talking mainly about, we'll talk about engagement at the end and talk about your brand on Instagram because that's impressive. But as far as podcast hosting goes, what kind of intention do you think about? Like, when does that start for you? What is your planning and intention look like?
I think there's two things we can talk about because we do two podcasts with you guys. So we've got one for our company, Vibrant Management, which is the Virtual GM podcast, which is a hospitality podcast. And all of that started from going to Grow with Video. Shout out Sean Cannell.
Yeah, I got to shout out Sean Cannell.
So go listen to that episode that we did on Virtual GM with him because he's brilliant. And we left that like, wow, there is such an opportunity in this space because we have to create content and we have to create value. And what better way to do it than to sit down for an hour and talk, because then we get so much out of it.
Yes.
Not only do we get the long form, and so Sean talks about the triangle, right? We've got this long form content at the top, but then all of these drips of incredible information at the bottom, all these 30 to 60 minute snippets that allows us to be so active and social. And I can say for my own brand, like when I started out, it was like I was trying to record videos of myself and I just never found the time. Like I signed up for this thing with Story, who's a great company in Utah, who will take your videos and edit them and make them look awesome. Mm-hmm. And my contract was like $5 a month and it was like $300. So it was like a big investment and I would win a whole month and didn't do one. And that's when I was like, gosh, it was just so much harder to like set it up in my room and like get my ring light and get my microphone and know what I'm going to talk about. Where here, and just sit down and have a conversation. It's organic, which is better. It's not like predetermined. We're not taking multiple takes. It just is what it is. And then you're just taking a snippet of that and then doing the same thing that I would have done with like the fabricated version of it. And so it creates such a funnel. And what's unique for us with Virtual GM, when you talk about intention, is that everything worth doing takes time. And I knew when we started the Virtual GM podcast, like we started on our cell phones. in like random places. We did it in the office. We did it in my office. We did it in my living room. We did it in my loft. Like we kept trying to find places. We bought cameras. Turned out they had a 15-minute recording limit. Like we had so much trial and error, bad audio, bad lighting, good lighting. But we kept recording every time. And because we knew that there's a difference with our business because we have a service to offer. And so luckily for us in our particular niche, no one really exists. And so we've gotten clients out of it that we would have never, ever engaged with otherwise, right? So we got Hotel Zaz, who is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, an incredible property, super unique, highlighted in Forbes magazine. The Shelby Inn, which is in Illinois. Now we've got a property in Oregon. Like all of these people that have been exposed, because what happens is hoteliers go to podcasts and they say, hotel podcast. And we're like the most relevant because we're the most active.
Yeah.
And so it's creating this incredible stream for us. Now, we're not monetizing the podcast yet. We don't have a bunch of subscribers. We don't have a bunch of viewers. Like if you go onto Virtual GM Instagram, they're anywhere from 100 views to 30,000 views, anywhere in between. But we're getting business because we have a service to sell.
Yes. So in a way, you haven't monetized the podcast directly, but it is monetized in a way because it's feeding.
Yes.
So you've basically, and this is where we are humbled to have you, like, for lack of a better term, we're part of your content factory. We enable some of that, right? And you guys,
enable all of it.
Yes. And so that's why I was so intrigued by intention. I was like, what can I talk to Cody about? And everything you do is so intentional, right? And people tease you about your you know, what do you call it?
OCD.
OCD. Right? Yeah. You got to like spin, turn it. But it served you so well. I think it's
certainly.
it's like a superpower for you.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think when you look at what Virtual GM has done, like we have EOS. If you listen to our podcast, you'll know that's how we operate as a company. And at the beginning of each quarterly meeting, you say, what's one thing that's working? What's one thing that's not working? Yeah. And at this last meeting, Breck, myself, and Spencer all said what's working is the podcast.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, when Spencer had the idea to start it, I kind of thought like, well, it's cool, but I don't know that it has any value. I wasn't a believer, right?
Right.
And so to see what has happened from it, and like now we had the guest from ByTac. ByTac is a huge hospitality event organization company. And because we had a platform, we were able to have Rich, the CEO, on our podcast. And because of that podcast, we got to host a panel, which I'm leaving for Florida tomorrow. And so now I get to get on this panel and host the panel because he was on our podcast. Without the podcast, that doesn't happen.
It's like
right. And so you can't even put a value on what's been returned to us. I mean, it is infinite and forever because it lives forever.
It lives forever. It's like I was just about to say, it's like a permanent audition. Yeah. It's like a permanent interview almost. Like,
well, and what's funny is one of our clients was listening to an episode, which is great. And she said, hey, I heard you said on the episode, like, you better make sure you're responding to all your TripAdvisor reviews. Are you doing that for me? And we pulled it up, and of course we are, because it's part of what we do. It's our proven process. But it just shows like even our existing people are listening. And so it's like you really have got to live the fabric of the conversation, because if we say like, here's all these things you should be doing, and for an existing client we weren't doing it, well, they're going to hold our feet to the fire and be like, well, you said, you know? And so it's been unbelievable. Now, winning the moment's a different journey.
Yeah.
Right?
Because what's your intention behind winning the moment?
Obviously. All of winning the moment is really derived around creating a brand for myself. My aspiration is to impact as many people as possible. And I believe my best way of doing that is through person-to-person engagement.
Right.
And so in order for someone to deem me worthy of speaking to a crowd, having a book helps facilitate that. As an author, I now have like checked the box of, oh yeah, he can be a speaker. If I become a best-selling author, I check another box. If I have a successful podcast, it's another box.
Credentials.
And the reason I'm naming it all the same thing is I want to create a name that's synonymous with winning. And so I want, if you just type in winning, I want to have an opportunity to be shown up, right? And so the podcast is really about creating awareness for the book, about creating awareness about me, and sharing that message that I really want to make an impact in people's lives. And so it's just creating a platform to do that. And the thing is, I know, like, the difference with winning the moment is we're going to tangibly have success. Virtual GM, we're going to tangibly have a return on revenue because there's a service associated with the podcast. Yes. I know definitively that winning the moment will not return anything tangible to me. My aspiration is by year 4, that I will have something from it. So I know I'm gonna have to record 200 episodes before like something really happens.
Yeah.
And I'm going into it just the same as if like I wanted a 6-pack, I couldn't get it in 4 months.
Nope.
Right? It's going to take a long time for me to get my fitness level to show the reward of all of my hard work. And I view winning the moment that same way. Like I know it's somewhere between 3 and 4 years, and I fully believe the universe is listening and they'll make that come to fruition, but I got to put in the work before I'm going to receive the reward.
Dude, absolutely. And
note that down. That was a good one.
that was, dude,
Cheers to
cheers
that.
He's spitting some wisdom, Cody Adent, and that's Eric Gubler had some water, but I cheersed him up the other day too. He's spitting some wisdom.
Yeah, he's
about
good.
Consistency and his content process. But you just like summed up the whole point of this whole podcast of your content factory is to be so intentional with everything you do. You're like the perfect example for that. Your Winning the Moment podcast is attached to a book.
Yeah.
Something that's tangible. It's attached to that personal brand.
Yeah.
You have a 4-year plan. And I brought this up to you earlier. I said this on the last podcast too, but how many times have you ever heard someone say, I'm going to start a marathon?
Yeah, no, that was awesome. I love that.
Versus, I'm going to run a marathon.
Yeah. Anyone can start a marathon.
Exactly.
Not a lot of people can run one.
Exactly. How many people don't finish?
Yeah.
And with podcasts or branding, it's something that there is no finish line at all. It just, the goalpost keeps getting moved.
Well, yeah.
Right?
I mean, I ask on my podcast, how do you define success? And I think the most interesting thing out of asking 19 people that is that it's never a place you can arrive.
Yeah.
So it's like, when is your podcast successful? Like intermittently. There's episodes that are really good and there's episodes that aren't good. And it's like, you have to just keep putting them out, because what I definitively know is the second you stop, it's no longer successful.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if you've built up so much momentum, you might have some leeway where, it might trail off.
Yeah.
after
You'll
a
have
couple
good,
weeks.
just like on Instagram, I'll get some that have a bunch of views. I'll get some that have no views.
Yep.
I don't know why, but I just got to keep trying. Just like as humans, we have good days, we have bad days. But just because you have one bad day, you don't stop living.
Exactly.
Or you shouldn't.
Yeah. And if you're a true pro, right? If you're a real professional, you do what needs to be done, regardless
Yeah.
of how you feel or what's going on. Now, I guess there are some emergencies in life circumstances that could throw a wrench and stuff, but
Uphold your commitments.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so intentional, commitment and like intention behind the commitment. Because a lot of people enter commitments with no intention to really uphold those commitments.
Yeah. I mean, I knew when we started both of these podcasts, both the Virtual GM and Winning the Moment, it's like, I guess we didn't even use the phraseology of like starting. It's like we're creating.
Yeah.
Because we have no intention of not doing it, especially with Virtual GM, because my niche of Winning the Moment is very saturated.
Yeah.
There is thousands of people talking about like self-development, self-improvement, like how to live your best life. Like I'm fighting Goliath.
Yes.
But for Virtual GM, that's not the case. So if you have like a niche down business where you have this unique space that no one else exists in, God, like kind of like Robert, like local politics, who's really talking about that in Southern Utah? If I wanted to know what Danielle Larkin thinks, where could I possibly get that content? Nowhere.
Yeah. It's not in that form. You might be able to get a snippet on the radio. But that doesn't
and even
live
then, I'd
anywhere
have to
else.
catch the radio at the right time, have the radio on, which I obviously never would. It's
That's
like
why
the
radio's
odds,
dead.
right? The odds of me ever hearing Danielle's message is basically zero, except for on Robert's podcast.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you're interested, and what's so unique is I'm not a political person. I've never voted. I've never registered to vote, because I feel like it doesn't matter. But what I've learned is that it does actually matter locally. Right?
Because
That's
I'm
the
same
only
way.
thing that matters. And so if you really want to make a difference in your community, or you're concerned or you want to be involved, it's local that matters. And so Robert's created this platform where you can actually, for the first time ever, because all you ever see is signs.
Yeah.
Like the only way they even know who's running is just like whatever the signs are in town.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about what they stand for.
Exactly.
And I think most voters are probably just going and being like, oh, he's in my ward, or I know that last name, or they're right or they're left. And so now for the first time, he's creating an opportunity to give these people a voice. I think it's really cool.
It is. And if you're in the Southern Utah area and you know Cody, you know us, if you know Robert, or if you don't, we're looking for sponsors for that, because there's a ton of momentum around there and you can really get your brand out, showing support for local stuff. So hit us up. and we'd love to throw your ads up there and show that you appreciate and sponsor that as well, because that right there, you just nailed it on the head. It's an extremely needed niche right now, especially as a whole entirety of America, right? Like what happens on the federal level is almost like mystical. It's just not tangible to us, but we get the most riled up about it.
I remember I was in Kanab when Joe Biden won the election over Trump, and I was at dinner. We're hosting an event, and I'm sitting next to a gentleman at dinner, and he looks at me and he goes, "What do you think?" I said, "Honestly," I don't really care. My life was great while Trump was president. My life was great when Obama was president. I'm sure my life will continue to be great.
Yeah, more of the same.
Right, because the president doesn't have a bunch of control. Now, do I necessarily think that our society as a whole is going in the right direction? No. But do I think that whoever the president is really going to shift that a whole lot? I don't know that they have a whole lot of control. Yep. So I don't know how important it is. But I do think if you get involved locally and just work your way up from the bottom, then I think you have a chance to make a difference.
Yeah, that's where you as an individual can make the most impact.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a senator, that's a little bit different. You can go play those games. If you're the head of a mega corporation, you can do stuff. But,
wherever the money is, where the power is.
Right. And that's a conspiracy. Maybe we save for another podcast or something. But I'm starting kind of a conspiracy. Also, Eli, our mutual friend, should be on there. He's my barber now. I think I told you. Right?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
he is so good at it too.
And still, shout out to if Lily, my previous barber, is watching this. She's an excellent barber. Gave her a great gift, and she's awesome. But I'm switching to Eli for networking because
he's got a lot of good people in the share.
Business connections. It's just going to further me up there. But he's fantastic. But he's the conspiracy guy. Like he
knows it all, man. It's wild.
Yeah. And he's not like conspiracy like crazy. He's very learned about just kind of religions of the world and ancient stuff. It's fascinating. So.
Well, and I love that he doesn't speak from a place of knowing. He speaks from a place of curiosity.
Yeah.
Here's what I've heard. Here's what I've read. Take with you will. He's not saying you're right and I'm wrong or anything like that. He's just like, well, I don't really know. What do you think?
Exactly. He's just the purest truth seeker I've ever met. Really.
He was my most successful podcast by far because it's so interesting. Yeah. Yes, everyone's individual success and failures and stories is unique. But when you're talking about Eli and you're just talking about curiosity, thoughts that we all have, that's why Joe Rogan, I think, is so successful because he's just talking on all these incredible topics.
And bringing it back to intention, Eli could have an amazing intention behind a podcast.
Oh yeah, I told him he needs to do it for sure.
Yeah, I mean half of the podcast could be getting to know the guest while they get a haircut, and then when they get more serious, they go sit down.
Yeah, I think he'd do. I know he will do awesome.
Yeah, and we're in talks with him too.
That's great. I hope he does it.
Yeah, and even if not, I just switched to him because he's a fantastic barber.
Yeah,
amazing.
He is great.
But yeah, so intention. I think you do a fantastic job with intention behind your podcast, behind your book. Everything has a plan.
Yeah.
You're very meticulous. You come prepared. You never run out of questions. Because kind of when I was working for the government and stuff, they teach you like an unprepared statement or response or question. A question especially will follow up with 2 or 3 additional clarifying questions to get your first questions out.
Yeah.
And we're all susceptible to this.
Sure.
It's like, oh, I don't have a question. And so it's like, what do you think about this in the context of this and that? And then if your question needs more elaboration and other questions to answer, so your question, it's just not going to work, right?
Yeah.
So your questions are very intentional.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to that intention. Your planning is outstanding. So I commend you for that. Go listen to his podcast, listen to him on that, and you will see what I mean. It's awesome. But I wanted to swing it into engagement because you brought it up. All of this is tied into engagement because engagement is extremely intentional in its own right as well.
Yeah.
But you've kind of taught us a thing or two on engagement. Just real quick, go through like your squad.
Yeah.
Actually, well, let's back it up. So when you launched your book, Winning the Moment, how long has it been?
That was in January 3rd.
January. So just this year.
Uh-huh.
How long have you had social media?
I didn't have it until I went to the Growth Video Conference with Think Media. And I signed up for Twitter that day in the crowd, sent my first tweet. And I just wasn't a fan of social media. But once I created the book, it's like I got to be where the audience is and the eyeballs are. So I have to do it. And so that's what started it. So it's like I probably have only had my account for like maybe not even a year or close to a year because I knew I needed to start like building it up. In fact, so I'm going to BITAC tomorrow. When I was at BITAC last year and I was talking to the people about my book and they're like, you have to get social media. So I obviously didn't have it at that time. And so it's been a real journey. And I realized that social media is kind of like alcohol. If you have a good life, then it can enhance it.
Yeah.
But if you have a negative life, then it can really derail you. And I think social media is the same way. If you have a positive disposition, I don't think it has the same negative effect as it would if you're in like depression or if you're using it as like as a crutch, you know. And if you're cautious with how you utilize it, I think it can have a lot of benefits. Obviously, for me, it's created exposure and so many relationships I wouldn't have had otherwise. Like talking about my podcast. One thing that was really cool is Nick Hutchinson's from Book Thinkers, who is an awesome, if you look him up on Instagram, hundreds of thousands of followers, super connected with all these authors. And he's coming out with a book in November, I think. And he asked me to be on my podcast.
Oh, cool.
And it was like, wow, how cool that I've like got to a point that this person who helped me with like my PR for my book is now asking me to be a guest on mine because of the work that I've done.
Full circle.
And like John, who we had on the podcast, like I've never even met him in person. And I just met through him through engaging in social media and have built this network. And now through all of that, I'm speaking at an event in Columbus as one of the keynote speakers, shoulder to shoulder with like these incredible 100,000 plus copy booksellers.
Yeah.
All from engagement. Like I didn't know any of those people. I didn't even exist in that space, you know?
Yeah. And engagement on social media, it's basically just a promotional tool. And like, I love how you just said, it's basically, you can either use that tool or let the tool be used on you.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're not wielding the hammer, you know, and someone else wants to hammer you, like it's there. So I think it's a tool that's used against the populace a lot too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Exploited.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're not using it, like, I think it was a couple years ago, somebody, a big wig, it was probably Gary Vee, let's be honest, but they said Instagram, the social media is just a promotional tool. So whatever you want to promote, you push, put out there. But people look at it completely through a different lens. They're like, oh, it's just a little archive. I can update the family on the kids. And and that's great. And
then they're promoting their family. That's fine.
You're still promoting something. Yeah. You're promoting, you know, your vacation, you're promoting your lifestyle, whatever it is.
And I started on just Instagram because that just seemed the easiest. And then it was really the episode we did of Sean Cannell, and I was like, I'm creating a disservice for myself because you guys are providing me with all this content from all my episodes. And I was only using it on Instagram. And then Sean talked about how he does 350 posts a week. And I was like, man, it really is so foolish of me to not take advantage of the opportunity to share it everywhere.
Yes.
And so now I'm doing every post goes on 6 different platforms.
Nice. That probably added quite a bit to your workload.
Yeah. But you know what? It doesn't, because it's like just one more post. So if you already have the content, how long does it really take to put that everywhere? It doesn't. So don't make excuses.
It's tedium, right?
Yeah.
But I made an excuse to promote
and
our
I just,
company.
what I did is I put it on my phone and I put all my apps like this. So I just follow the row.
You just go down.
So I just do that one and then I do the next one. I do the next one so I don't forget.
Okay.
And then it's just done. And
so let's talk about that real quick, because that's a process that probably your OCD and your personality.
For sure, yeah.
You have a process like.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: how do you, like? Obviously, we don't need to go into detail. How do you get dressed in the morning? Is your outfit pre-selected?
No, I do color coordinate my closet. So my closet's all color coordinated and also style coordinated. It's like my suits are in one spot, my dress shirts are in one spot, my polos are in one spot, my nice t-shirts in a drawer.
Same drawer. And they're all paired together.
Yeah. So I've got like all my dress socks that go this way and then like my athletic socks that go that way. Very, very much regimented.
Do you have any military background? Like, do you have any family, did you go to military school?
No.
So I never had that. And my mom had that, but I never had that till the military. And now I'm the same way. I'm not the color coding. I don't have a great wardrobe. Like the most colorful I get is like a Hawaiian shirt, you know?
Oh, even if it's just blacks and whites, they're just together.
You're just that. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I was so meticulous in the infantry. They teach you that, but people do it at different levels. They called me a gear queer because I always had some new piece of gear that made my organization better. Like I was obsessed with gear. They'd made fun of me all the time until they saw me whip something out quicker or have
it makes
the
a huge
practical
difference.
use. And I'm sure you've gotten some flack for your OCD too. But
Yeah, people give me a hard time, but it's the greatest.
it's the greatest way.
I talked about on the Virtual Gem podcast before this, like I got all of our clients' finances done for the month because I have a system.
Because you have a system, an
And
SOP.
without the system, there's no way I could have
Yes.
accomplished that amount of work in that amount of time.
That's the difference between great content creators and amateur or mediocre.
Well, and even what I do
there's a
too
system.
is I put all of the content. So I get the content from you guys, then I spruce it up, and then like I have a folder on my phone for shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of my videos are here. So that way I'm not searching through like my library of all my stuff, and where is it? And I've got pictures of my kids.
Do you delete it once it's posted?
Yep.
Cool. So that's your process.
Yep.
So that's basically you have created a media company's process, like within your own
As an
personal
individual,
habits
yeah.
as an individual.
Yeah.
And I get on Mal's case. She gets on my case about audio, and I get on her case about file etiquette, Dewey Decimal System type
Yeah.
shit. I'm like the librarian over
As
there.
he sent me the wrong
I
file.
sent
I
you the
know.
wrong-
Yeah. I was thinking that.
Yes, I did. Yeah. That was because I moved it and I went out of my process, right? I did something out of my process, which was this new audio
Yeah.
recording. And I was like, where do I put this? And so that's why that process is so important. So we'll go back to that here real quick. We'll kind of microscope that. So engagement wise, let's talk about that process more. You wake up in the morning. We know how you get dressed now.
Yeah, that was the most
Coordinated.
important thing. And I've really dropped off so what I really realized like in the very beginning was I was like, okay, in order to make the biggest impact, I've got to care about other people. I got to show up for them, so they'll show up for me.
Right.
So I got to comment on their posts, and I've got to like their stuff, and I got to follow them, and I got to be there. I got to be where they are, right? And that's how I built all those relationships. That's how I built that relationship with John and with book thinkers. And there's this whole bookstagram of people who are, and I wanted to find the audience that was interested in what I'm talking about. So how do I get to a place where people are interested in books or interested in me? And so as Instagram is such a great tool to show you what you're interested in. If you look on my search page, it's mostly books and inspirational stuff because that's where I needed to be. And so I'll even do something as like, let's say that there's someone who has a great video. I'll go and comment at Instagram, please put more of this in my feed. Because the person who sees that is like, wow, like this person liked it so much. He asked Instagram to
wanna see
specifically give me more of this.
of me
And so then they'll comment, or I'll go into a book. Like someone shares a book about atomic habits, and I'll go in there and be like, oh, I love this book. If you love this book, you should check out this. And sometimes I'm doing that as like a selling thing, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm just actually engaging.
Yeah.
Or someone's like, oh, I wish I could read that book, but I can't afford it. So I'll tell them like, I'll send you my book for free, And a lot of times it really truly is a non-sales engagement. It's just like, what are your favorite books? These are my 5 favorite books, And so, and what happened is I was doing that so well, and I'd kind of fallen off, and you'll see it in my content with my engagement because I had a streak there where it's like everything was just hitting, boom, 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 boom. And then I just have gotten so preoccupied, I hadn't taken the time to engage like I did. And so now I get some videos that aren't getting quite the views. Like I had 3 in a row that didn't get over 2,000. I hadn't had that in a while. But then like you've got this clip. I think you talked about this on one of yours. It was with Sam Edwards, only has 686 views right now. But what's phenomenal about it is it has 64 shares. And so it's like, wow, and only 44 likes. So it's like, by no means is this my most viewed, or like the one you put on the trophy case is like, this is the one. But 64 people said this is worth sharing. And that to me is so much more valuable. And then like even for Eli, we talked about Eli, one of his, so this video with Eli has 2,198 views, which is not bad. It has 115 likes, which is fine. 24 shares, pretty good. And then it has 27 comments. So it's like there's real dialogue taking place here and people are really invested. The one I did about his podcast has 12,200 views. Whoa. So on the surface, it's like, oh, this is better. As 487 likes, better, but only 7 comments and only 15 shares, right? So 9 less shares, 20 less comments, so way less engagement. So, and I don't know why, right? Like I don't know the algorithms. I don't know why that one had 10 times the views as this one and this one had more engagement. But what I know is that they're both equally valuable.
Yes.
This one's valuable for different reasons than that one, but if I had the choice, I would duplicate Eli's time and time again, or even like Sam's that had less than 1,000 views, but all of those shares, because that's how I get the opportunity to be introduced to a new audience.
Yes.
Right. And so because a view could just be they're just in their feed and they're just flying past it,
promoting what you're promoting.
And so in the beginning, I did a lot of engagement because I knew I had to create an audience, and I did, and I ran a bunch of ads on Instagram in the beginning too. So I boosted a lot of my posts, and now I hardly ever boost one, because they've also made it challenging. Like anytime you put music on it, or basically if you do anything but just have like the raw video, you can't boost it, which is silly on Instagram's part. But so then like I didn't have any of these other platforms. So now I finally have TikTok. And what's so interesting is I got one that got 5,797 views. The rest all have about 270. I have no clue why that one got that many views. Right. I did do that one in the afternoon, so maybe that's why. So I think it's just a lot of trial and error. You just see what works and what doesn't work. Like I found out with YouTube Shorts, for me anyways, I don't know if this is true organically everywhere, but my YouTube Shorts do way better if I do it first thing in the morning. If I do a YouTube short at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it may get less than 100 views. If I do it when I wake up and early in the morning, it could get up to 2,000.
Absolutely.
So you just have to do your trial and error and figure out where's the sweet spot for you.
Yeah. And this is the thing that people are completely disconnected from, because there's this stigma right now. And this is a stigma that Blueform Media works hard to avoid, because people think the more money that they throw at a media company, that the more growth that will happen, which is true to some extent, right? But
sure, if you're putting it on ads.
Yeah, if you're putting it on ads, and like, like if we look at Sean Cannell's team, or like they have these salaried teams that do this, and they're right across the desk from the man himself who can share the vision and everything. But a lot of people building a brand, they're missing the engagement. Yeah. They're missing this, right? Because engagement is literally everything when you're starting out, as we have you as walking proof. And so people will come in and they'll be doing almost everything right, but they're missing engagement. So they built the engine, you got the gas in it, but there's not even a spark plug in there.
Yeah, I mean, even if you put videos out every day, obviously in time you'll be successful, but only relatively. Like you've got to let the audience, like no one cares about themselves or anyone else as much as they care about themselves. So you have to show up for them where they care. Yes. And if you, like I was telling, I can't remember his name, from Beyond Net Worth podcast, and I was like, if you're in my feed, I'm going to like your content, because I want you to like mine. So it's like, I'm going to show up for you as much as I can, and I'll try and leave comments as frequently as possible, because I know if I do that for you, like kind of McRae shared on the podcast with me, like the gift of giving, and then you'll receive. It's like, I know if I show up for you, then there's a higher probability that you'll show up for me. Totally.
It's worked. I mean, it's worked on me. You came and you're like, hey, I saw your Content Factory. And I was like, wow, hey, thank you. Yeah. And then, your stuff's been in my feed, and it's like, I have to comment. Now I'm like obligated. I'm like, I need to comment on Cody's stuff. I need to comment on everyone, all of my clients. And so, but we've been missing this as a company. We've been so focused on, about 1 million different things, as you can imagine, as getting.
Well, engagement takes the most time. Like you really can't outsource engagement.
You can't.
Like that's the one you can outsource so many things. Engagement, you can't. I mean, like, sure, you could probably find someone in the Philippines that you could pay $3 an hour to go and comment on stuff, but that's not you. Yeah, and there's no way to be you.
Exactly, and it's not driving a local algorithm. Yeah. So if you're looking for local real estate or local, hospitality, right, in your case, or a book might be better for that. Sure.
But even then, I think that it's the way that you, like my responses to books where I've actually read the book and they're like, oh, here's this book I read, and I go in there and I say, oh, these are my takeaways and I loved it because of this. And actually, if you love that book, check out this book by Dan Sullivan or whatever. No one is going to be able to answer that in the way that I would answer it, or give perspective in the way that I would give it, except for me, right? Because it's my perspective. And so I think that's what's so important. And that's really what allowed me to like really get Instagram going in a positive direction.
Absolutely, dude. I think you've done a fantastic job with that. And thank you for helping me preach this engagement. Because a lot of our clients are fantastic podcasters, excellent content, excellent principles and ideals that they preach. But there's a disconnect with this. And even some of the top guys that are out there that are still kind of like about ready to break through, I think they're all lacking in engagement, us included. Right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, in the beginning, I posted less and commented more.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you posted less, commented more. Now, I guess there's it's good to be posting a lot too. Right?
Yeah, I only had so much time, right?
To do what.
So in the beginning, it was like, well, let me focus on like, so if I had an hour a day to be on social media, I spent that hour commenting, sharing, posting versus creating.
Interesting.
Because one, I didn't have the content because I have a podcast yet. So creating a 30-second video might take me 40 minutes with setting up the lights and doing the thing and all of that stuff. And so it's like the best use of my time before I had this funnel of content was to just engage.
Yeah. And we'll end on this, but your content funnel, and would you say it's safe to say that your podcast is probably the majority?
That's all it is really now.
Really,
I mean, if you look through my feed, it's all there's almost nothing because it's just so frequent, and it's like I have a cache of it. So I have all this amazing stuff. It's like my desire to create something different is very low because I have a plethora of incredible content. And then like using Sean, like with Opium and Munch and stuff, it's like now I can have even more. Because before it was like, oh, I'd only do a couple per episode, but now I can throw it into Munch and it'll create me more in 45 seconds. And so it's like, man, I can just leverage that, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think it's awesome too, because you actually take the time to go into the details where a lot of people throw money at us, for example, and they're like, hey, figure it out.
Yeah.
And we're like, but we're missing them. We're missing their engagement. We're missing them also being schooled on it. So we're actually kind of changing our tune because of you. We're like, hey,
that's great.
We're looking for A players now. We're looking for people that want to understand this more as well. They want to put in some effort behind the scenes. Like if we can lay the foundation for your content creation, imagine that if the foundation's already poured, with minimal effort on your part, and we're just distributing into that, boom, just pumping it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing what we've been able to do in the short time that we've worked with you guys and the success we've had. And certainly, like the guests we've had on Virtual GM, because those have all been remote, right? Like we wouldn't have gotten those people to like, hey, hop on a Zoom with us as we're like in my home office. Yeah. You know, like when we have producers and we've got the microphones, we've got the background and they're seeing the content, like there's no way that someone of Sean Cannell's level would have jumped on like our rinky-dink cell phone video recorded.
Oh, dude, it's amazing. We had a guy come in and do a test podcast. He just like rented our studio to be on someone else's podcast. And these guys had been doing it. In his mind, he was telling us, we don't know who they are yet. He's like, these guys are a big deal. Like they've done this many episodes. They had like, I think like 300 or something episodes. Like they've been doing it for a while. And we get them on the Zoom call. They were using an app called Riverside, which I think is
I've been on that a bunch.
Yeah. And their video quality and their audio quality was complete and utter ass.
Yeah.
And so I commend them for doing a podcast that long. But like here he is. And we're like, I jumped on the mic before they could say anything. And I'm like, yeah, we're his production team. And so now he's come out the gate with these guys with so
certain
much
level of credibility, right?
Yeah. And they were like, whoa, looks great, man. You're putting us to shame. And me and Mal were like high-fiving in the production room.
Yeah.
But it is so crucial if you're going to step into a game, bigger arena, right?
Yeah.
To have it dialed. Because I think we had some technical difficulties. It was like 2 weeks in a row, or it was like your recording day.
Yeah.
We're like, shit. And so like having a team of production, like, if you had to take apart a computer graphics card to fix an issue.
Well, even my goal at the beginning of the year was to start a podcast. And
that's right.
If I wouldn't have found you guys, I don't know that it would have happened because it was just too daunting of a task.
Oh, really?
To like, because it was like, where am I gonna? I wanted an audience, and I wanted to interview people. Like that was the whole premise of my podcast: is let me create all the data points for book 2, right? So I need other people's perspective because this book isn't about what I believe; it's about what other people are doing.
Sure.
And so I have to have other people, but it's like, how was I going to do that in my house?
Yeah.
Like, who really wants to take an hour out of their day to come sit in my living room and like have me record them on a cell phone with like an Amazon mic? It's not the same thing. Coming and sitting in a studio with a real mic and real headphones and producers in the background, it's very similar to like creating my book. It creates a sense of credibility. Having a real studio with producers creates a sense of credibility. And so I think people enjoy the process more and are more willing and excited to be a part of it because it's like, oh, Cody's really doing it.
Yes.
Like, yes, I'll go on this podcast because he's actually doing it. He's not like starting it.
Yeah, because I don't know. I hope Sean Cannell was impressed. And I hope other guests.
The content turned out great. Like we've got we produced it all now, and like the way that we do.
Is
and
that dropped yet?
It's no, I haven't. I'll probably post the first one tomorrow.
Okay,
and
right on.
and we got like all of his specifications for collaboration, so he should collaborate on them, which is awesome because that exposes us to just a huge network, and so that was a huge win. You know, what would have happened if we weren't here?
Dude, you guys did a great job with that. But yeah, Cody, I think we've touched on everything, dude. Like, I love your passion. I love your intention behind everything. There's a lot you can learn from Cody. Go check him out at Winning the Moment. It's just Winning the Moment podcast.
That's the YouTube channel. Yeah. Winning the Moment. Search Winning the Moment wherever podcasts are found, or you can go to my website, just codyadent.com. Everything's there. Socials, it's all pretty much Cody Adent or Cody_Adent. I've done a great job on digital media. So even if you just type Cody Adent into Google.
Yeah. SEO, right?
Yeah. You're going to find it.
That's a whole nother topic we're diving into. And that guy that came over today,
Yeah.
he's an SEO guru.
Yeah. It's so important.
And then also, if you guys need a team, let us know. If you want to build your own team, find nerds. Get into gaming. Get into the tech world. Go out and actually dip your toes into the pool like Cody has done here. If there's a takeaway for the audience, I'm going to say it's your level of willingness to dive into this stuff that's gotten you where you are. Because people...
you're only going to get out of life what you put into it.
Exactly. Well said. Because I know a lot of people that they'll pay for stuff to go do the heavy lifting, which is fine. But what you have that's different is that you've actually done a lot of the heavy lifting yourself or attempted to and understand that nuance.
I think that we operate as a team, right? And so like I feel like you and Mallory are part of my team versus like your people I pay to do a thing. You know, like we're doing it together.
And we're a little bit more tangible because we are local.
Yeah.
And we've actually had some people out of state, and we don't like doing that as much, even though that's where like we could scale to.
Sure. Yeah. More scalability.
Yeah. We just, there's such a personal touch that needs to be on this. There's so much personal intention and understanding your brand and stuff. And I think you have us positioned perfectly. We hope to kind of gain some of that tedium from you.
Yeah.
And like, as we understand your vision more and as you grow, you're like, man, I really need some help with this, because you're only using about half of our services, I think, right now.
Or like a quarter.
A quarter.
Yeah.
Right? Which is awesome, though. We love it. So whatever you choose to do, we're with you. We're your team, dude. Thanks for being here today. Do you have any kind of, like, what's a takeaway or a one-liner you want to hit us with? Anything that's been on your mind lately? Profound.
I would say the most important takeaway for people who are listening to this and are trying to create their content factory is be everywhere that's available. You know, Threads existed, get on it.
Maximize.
You know? Yeah, if it doesn't really take that much more time to be on every platform, so you might as well show up everywhere.
Absolutely. Well said, Cody. Well, we're out of liquor, but toast you then. That's everything. Again, this has been your Content Factory. I'm Blake Norton. This is Dr. Stephen Brule. This right here. Wait, let's do it, Mal. Come back to me if you haven't. Ready? That is Cody Adent right there. Dope guy, and we appreciate you, dude. So thanks for
having me. I loved it.
Appreciate you, man. Peace. Get out of here. Leave. We don't want you anymore. Go home, Free Willy. Oh, you gave me the Tinkerbell right there. Yeah.